Did you know that in the 1970s, kids had only 3 TV channels? Imagine waiting all week just to watch Saturday morning cartoons. But there's so much more to this groovy decade that kids today would never understand. Let's dive into these unique experiences. TV options. Remember using TV options in the 1970s? Options for watching TV were very different back then. For one, there were really only 3 TV channels plus public broadcasting. That's right, just 3. No streaming services, no endless options. You'd also have to get up and manually turn the dial to change channels. It was a time when we waited for our favorite shows, which included nightly programs and beloved Saturday morning cartoons. It was a big deal when you could pour a big bowl of cereal and binge hours of your favorite animated shows. With limited TV options, it's no wonder kids spent so much time outside. Well, that and the fact that some parents made their kids go outside and play. Weeknights were often spent as a family, gathered around the TV to watch popular shows like Happy Days or The Brady Bunch, creating shared memories that are cherished even today. Special events, like the airing of a major movie or a holiday special, were anticipated with great excitement, turning ordinary evenings into memorable occasions. Superhero underwear. Did you ever run around the house pretending to be Superman or Batman? Well, if you did during the 1970s, then you most likely had on a pair of superhero underoos. For many kids, they served a dual purpose: underwear and part of a costume. When you were strutting around the house feeling invincible, superhero underoos were more than just clothing. They were your identity. The bright colors and iconic logos made you feel like you could take on the world. Whether you were saving the day from imaginary villains or just lounging around the house, wearing underoos was an adventure. The fabric might not have been the most comfortable, but the psychological boost it provided was unmatched. You dashed through the living room with your cape, which was really just a towel, fluttering behind you, fully immersed in your role as a superhero. These special garments were often featured on TV commercials that made them look even cooler, creating a massive demand among kids. They were a must-have item on birthday and holiday wish lists, and parents knew that a pair of underoos would bring immense joy to their children. Making mixtapes. Making a mixtape in the 70s was an art form. It took patience and dedication to sit by the radio for hours, waiting for the right song to be played. It didn't matter how good your timing was. Pushing down the play and record buttons at precisely the right time still sometimes had the DJ talking over the intro. That was just part of the charm. Cassettes had their quirks too, like when they got tangled, and you'd have to use a pencil to wind them back in. This was the first time we could listen to music anywhere we wanted, creating what we know today as a playlist. Each mixtape was a personal curation of songs that captured a specific mood or theme, often made to impress friends or express feelings to a crush. The satisfaction of finally completing the perfect mixtape with all your favorite songs in the ideal order was unmatched. Sharing a mixtape was like sharing a piece of your soul, a heartfelt gesture that conveyed emotions words often couldn't. The anticipation of handing it over and waiting for the recipient's reaction added another layer of excitement to the whole process. Today, while digital playlists have taken over, the nostalgia of making mixtapes lingers. And if you're longing for that old-school vibe, record stores still offer a treasure trove of music memories, keeping the spirit of mixtapes alive. Keep watching as we delve into more nostalgic treasures from the past. Record stores. Record stores in the 1970s were not just places to buy music, they were social gathering spots. Just like the malls of the 1980s, young people would hang out with friends, browse through vinyl records, and listen to albums before purchasing them. Store employees were music enthusiasts who would recommend hidden gems. Striking up a conversation with a stranger who shared your taste in music was common, making the local record store a special place and yet another experience that is hard to replicate today. The ambiance of these stores was unique, with album covers lining the walls and the latest hits playing over the speakers. Many stores hosted live performances or autograph signings, bringing fans closer to their favorite artists. Spending hours in a record store was an adventure, as you never knew what rare find or new release you might stumble upon. The tactile experience of flipping through records, examining the artwork, and reading the liner notes added a tangible element to music discovery that digital downloads simply can't match. For many, the local record store was a sanctuary, a place where music lovers could escape the outside world and immerse themselves in their passion. Grooming trends. Have you ever wondered what grooming trends were like in the 1970s? When you think back to the 1970s, men had some serious style with manly mustaches, sideburns, big hair, and the distinct aroma of aftershave. It was all about the macho look, and men took their grooming seriously, often coupled with bold clothing choices. They flaunted leisure suits, wide-collared shirts, and flared trousers, always aiming to make a statement. For women, products like Sun-In were all the rage, promising sun-kissed highlights. The smell of Love's Baby Soft, a signature scent from the 1970s, was another memorable element. The sweet, youthful fragrance had all the girls wearing Baby Soft, though the ad campaign might not fly today. Additionally, both men and women often visited salons and barbershops regularly, ensuring their hair and overall look were always on point. The meticulous grooming routines and distinctive styles of the 1970s left a lasting impression that is fondly remembered by those who lived through the era. The dedication to style and appearance was a significant part of the social culture, with each individual expressing their personality through their unique look. Hitchhiking. Hitchhiking during the 1970s was surprisingly easy and acceptable. It was very common to see people thumbing a ride on the side of the road. Drivers often didn't hesitate to pick up hitchhikers, seeing it as a way to help out a fellow traveler. There was more of a sense of camaraderie on the open road back then, a feeling that's hard to understand in today's world. Though it wasn't without risk, encountering a few weirdos was just part of the adventure. Hitchhiking was also seen as a rite of passage for many young people, a way to explore the world with limited resources. Stories of hitchhiking journeys were often shared with friends and family, adding to the allure and mystique of the open road. People trusted each other more, and there was a collective sense of looking out for one another. The thrill of the unknown and the spontaneous nature of these trips created memories that would last a lifetime. Caller ID. Today, when the phone rings, you know who's calling. But back in the 1970s, that wasn't the case. When the telephone hanging in the kitchen rang, it was always answered because there was no caller ID. People had no idea who was on the other end, which meant every call was a surprise. You didn't know if it was your best friend or a sales call, making every ring a little adventure. This lack of caller ID also meant that prank calls were much more common, as the anonymity of the caller was guaranteed. Answering the phone was a bit of a gamble, and sometimes you'd even pick up a call meant for someone else in the house. The excitement of the unknown made every phone call an event, and families often gathered around the phone to listen in on important calls. The shared experience of receiving a long-distance call from a loved one added to the thrill, as you never knew when you might hear from someone far away. It was a time when voices on the other end of the line held a sense of mystery and anticipation. Polaroid cameras. To capture moments in the 1970s, you absolutely needed a Polaroid camera. Do you remember the thrill of watching a photo develop right before your eyes? The idea of hitting the button and instantly getting a picture was gratifying, but you had to be selective because each roll of film only had a certain number of pictures. Did you ever shake the picture to help it develop faster, believing in the myth? The excitement of watching the image slowly appear was a magical experience. You couldn't take the bulky Polaroid camera everywhere, so photo booths at arcades, malls, and roller rinks were ideal for capturing goofy and fun moments with friends. Do you recall cramming into a photo booth with your friends, making silly faces and creating lasting memories? These booths were often a gathering spot where friends would create cherished keepsakes. Polaroid pictures were treasured keepsakes, often displayed on refrigerators, in scrapbooks, or pinned to bedroom walls, preserving the cherished moments of the past. Have you ever found an old Polaroid and been instantly transported back to that moment? They were also popular at parties and family gatherings where instant photos could be shared and enjoyed immediately. The unique, tangible nature of Polaroid photos added a special touch to the memories, making them feel even more significant. Drive-in theaters. Remember the magic of drive-in theaters? Drive-in theaters offered a unique movie-watching experience. Families and friends could watch movies under the stars from their cars, with speakers hooked onto car windows. It was a social event that combined the love of cinema with the charm of being outdoors. You could bring your own snacks, blankets, and even lawn chairs to set up outside your car for a better view. Kids would often play before the movie started, and the atmosphere was filled with the excitement of a communal gathering. Some drive-ins even had playgrounds and concession stands, making it a complete night out for the family. The experience of watching a film in the open air with a sky full of stars overhead is a nostalgic memory that many cherish. Couples on dates would snuggle up under blankets, and groups of friends would laugh and chat, making the experience more than just about the movie. It was a quintessential part of the 1970s, a time when simple pleasures created lasting memories and brought communities together in a unique and delightful way. And speaking of memories, who can forget the joy of morning cereal? Morning cereal. Weekends were special because of Saturday morning cartoons, but they were also about finding the best surprise toy inside the cereal box. Kids would beg their parents for certain brands of cereal, not because of the taste, but because of the toy inside. Whether it was a silly game or a small figurine, it felt like finding a treasure when you dug to the bottom of the box and pulled out the prize. The excitement of opening a new box and eagerly searching for the hidden toy was an unmatched thrill. Sometimes kids would even race to be the first to get the toy, leading to playful arguments among siblings. The cereal box prizes ranged from stickers and temporary tattoos to small action figures and puzzles. Collecting these toys became a fun hobby, with some children trading them at school. The joy of discovering a new toy in your cereal made breakfast an adventure every weekend, adding a special magic to the morning routine. Mushroom decor. If you were to step back in time to a 1970s kitchen, you'd probably find a fair share of mushroom-themed decor. Mushroom plates, curtains, wallpaper, they were everywhere. Everything back then seemed to have an earthy aesthetic, and mushrooms must have been the perfect symbol for that style, creating a charming and unique atmosphere. The colors were often warm and inviting, with shades of orange, brown, and green dominating the palette. Mushroom canisters, salt and pepper shakers, and even tablecloths were common, each item contributing to a cohesive and whimsical look. The trend wasn't just limited to kitchens. Mushroom motifs could also be found in living rooms and bathrooms, bringing a touch of nature indoors. This fascination with mushrooms reflected a broader cultural interest in nature and simplicity. The decor had a cozy, almost magical quality, reminiscent of fairy tales and woodland adventures. For many, these mushroom-themed items evoke a sense of nostalgia, a reminder of a time when home decor was playful and full of character. Aluminum tabs. Opening a soda or beer can in the 1970s was a bit different. Do you remember the effort it took to pull the ring back and peel back the aluminum tab? These tabs were often tossed on the ground. These sharp pieces of discarded metal were a nuisance, especially on beaches or places where you might walk barefoot. How many times did you step on one of those tabs? This practice eventually changed to the stay tab we recognize today, but it was all part of the fun of living in the 1970s. The sound of the tab cracking open the can was a familiar noise at picnics, barbecues, and beach outings. Did you ever collect these tabs to make chains or crafts despite the hazards? Environmental awareness was not as prevalent, and it was common to see these tabs scattered around public places. The introduction of the stay tab was a significant improvement in reducing litter and injuries. However, those who lived through the era still remember the distinct feel of pulling off the old tabs and the slight metallic taste they left on your fingers. Do you miss that little ritual? The simple act of opening a soda or beer can become a small but memorable part of the 1970s experience, adding to the nostalgia of that time. Metal lunchboxes. School lunch in the 1970s wasn't complete without a trusty metal lunchbox and a matching thermos. These lunchboxes showed off our favorite pop culture characters and often had their fair share of rust. Any ding or scratch would quickly rust over, and our parents didn't seem to mind. The smell of opening a metal lunchbox after a long, hot day is a unique memory that kids today, with their insulated, character-themed lunch bags, will never experience. The inside of the lunchbox often had that distinct metallic smell mixed with the aroma of peanut butter sandwiches and fruit. Trading lunch items with friends and showing off the latest design were common lunchtime activities. The clink of the metal clasp and the sight of a beloved character like Superman or Wonder Woman made lunch a daily adventure. The durability of these lunchboxes meant they often lasted for years, becoming a cherished part of childhood memories. Rotary phones. Have you ever wondered what it was like to use a rotary phone? Kids today might never experience the slow process of dialing a number on a rotary phone. Each number had to be carefully rotated and then released, making phone calls a more deliberate and time-consuming activity. The satisfying click of the rotary dial and the anticipation as the dial slowly returned to its place were all part of the experience. Misdialing a number meant starting the entire process over, adding to the patience required. Phones were often placed in central locations in the home, meaning conversations were rarely private. The coiled cord would stretch as far as possible, often leading to tangled knots. The rotary phone was not just a communication device, it was a household fixture that required a bit of effort and patience. Qualities that seem almost quaint in today's fast-paced, instant connect world. These phones were built to last, often being used for decades, and they became an iconic symbol of mid-20th century communication. The tactile, physical interaction with the rotary dial is a far cry from the touchscreens and voice commands of today. Do you think you could handle the weight and effort it took to make a simple phone call back then? Typewriters. Typewriters were the primary tool for writing documents. Each keystroke was permanent, and correcting mistakes involved using correction tape or starting over. The clacking sound of typewriters is something kids today might find fascinatingly outdated. There was a certain rhythm to typing, with the keys striking the paper and the carriage return bells signaling the end of a line. Typing required precision and care, as errors were not easily fixed. The physicality of the machine, from loading the paper to manually advancing the ribbon, made the act of writing a more tactile experience. Many writers found inspiration in the deliberate pace and the satisfying feel of the keys under their fingers. Typewriters were often heavy and durable, built to last for years. The sense of accomplishment when finishing a page or a document was tangible, marked by the stack of typed pages that had been carefully produced. The typewriter was more than just a writing tool. It was a symbol of dedication and craftsmanship in the art of writing. And speaking of dedication, do you remember encyclopedias? Encyclopedias. Before Google, encyclopedias were essential. Families often had a complete set of these heavy books, which were used for school projects and general knowledge. Looking up information meant flipping through pages instead of typing into a search engine. The smell of the pages and the weight of the volumes added to the experience, making research a more immersive process. Encyclopedias were often beautifully illustrated, with detailed diagrams and photographs that brought subjects to life. They were a significant investment, proudly displayed on bookshelves and used by multiple generations. Each volume covered a range of topics, and children learned the skill of using the index to find specific information. Encyclopedias also encouraged a love of reading and exploration, as one topic often led to another in a never-ending quest for knowledge. The sense of discovery when finding the right page was uniquely satisfying. These books were not just sources of information, but also symbols of intellectual curiosity and a desire to understand the world. Manual car windows. Rolling down car windows required physical effort with manual crank handles. This was standard in most cars until power windows became common. Kids today enjoy the convenience of pressing a button to open or close windows, but back then, it was a mini workout every time you needed some fresh air. The cranking motion could be especially challenging for younger children or when the window mechanism was stiff. Adjusting the windows often involved stretching across the car if you were the driver and needed to roll down a passenger window. Despite the effort, there was something satisfying about the tactile experience of manually operating the windows. It also fostered a sense of independence in kids, as being able to roll down the window by yourself was a small but significant achievement. Manual windows rarely broke down, unlike their modern counterparts, which rely on electronic systems. This simplicity meant fewer repairs and a certain reliability that is sometimes missed today. Plus, there was a communal aspect to it. Passengers often helped each other crank the windows, adding to the shared experience of a car journey. No seatbelts in cars. Seatbelts were not mandatory in cars until the late 1970s. Many cars didn't have them, and it wasn't uncommon for kids to ride in the front seat or even in the back of station wagons without any restraints. The idea of driving without seatbelts is almost unthinkable today. Back then, safety standards were more relaxed, and families often prioritized convenience over safety. Kids would frequently lie down in the back seat for naps on long trips, or sit on their parents' laps in the front seat, especially during short drives. The freedom to move around the car was taken for granted, and many games and activities were designed around this mobility. Despite the obvious risks, this way of travel created a different kind of car culture, where the journey was as much about fun and interaction as it was about getting from point A to point B. The eventual introduction of mandatory seatbelts marked a significant shift in automotive safety, leading to a gradual change in how families approached car travel. Do you know about milk delivery? Then keep watching. Milk delivery. Milk delivery was a routine service in many neighborhoods. Milkmen would deliver fresh milk in glass bottles to homes, and empty bottles were left out for collection and replacement. This daily or weekly routine has largely disappeared. The clinking sound of glass bottles in the early morning was a familiar and comforting noise. Milk deliveries were often accompanied by other products like butter, eggs, and cream, making the service an essential part of household routines. Children would sometimes be given the job of bringing in the milk, a small but important responsibility. The glass bottles were reusable, making the system environmentally friendly long before recycling became common. The sight of a milkman's truck was a welcome one, representing reliability and the promise of fresh, local dairy products. Many milkmen knew their customers personally, adding a friendly neighborhood touch to the service. The end of widespread milk delivery marked the decline of a charming, community-focused tradition that fostered a closer relationship between consumers and local producers. It also reflected larger changes in how food was distributed and consumed as supermarkets began to dominate the market. We have already arrived at the last of this video: TV antennas. Adjusting TV antennas, whether they were rabbit ears or rooftop versions, was a common task to get a clear signal. Kids had to move these antennas around to get a better picture, often requiring some creative positioning. Sometimes, this meant standing in awkward positions while trying to hold the antenna just right, or wrapping tinfoil around the tips to enhance reception. Watching TV was a more interactive experience, with family members calling out when the picture improved or worsened. On windy days, rooftop antennas often needed realignment, and someone had to brave the elements to fix it. The struggle for a clear signal could turn into a group effort, with everyone pitching in ideas and advice. The satisfaction of finally getting a clear picture made watching shows feel like a reward. Adjusting antennas was an exercise in patience and ingenuity, skills that are rarely needed in today's world of digital streaming and high-definition broadcasts. Despite the hassle, it created a sense of achievement and a shared family activity that brought people together in unexpected ways. And there you have it, a delightful journey through the unique experiences of the 1970s. We hope you enjoyed this nostalgic trip down memory lane. If you loved exploring these memorable moments, don't forget to hit the like button and share your favorite 1970s memory in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and stay tuned for more trips back in time. Thanks for watching.